All right, I think we should get started. We are on time. And Ria, we're good to go?
Yep, we're good to go.
Super. All right. So this is already day 7, and it's so exciting. And Ruben and I and Ria too, we've been kind of like chatting. He's given a bunch of suggestions even before the event started. So thank you, Ruben, so much for all of that, and for finally, being with me and our team and having this great conversation around trust building. We've been speaking about persuasion. We've been speaking about, building more emotions into kind of like the shopping flow. And trust is an emotion. It's a very, very strong emotion. I think it's the most primal emotion you can think of. And one of the primary reasons that can actually make or break literally your online business, whatever it is, e-com or otherwise. And without trust, where are we? That's like the basic human instinct, I guess. So I'm very excited to dive into all of that and what it means for us as businesses to actually build in trust across our store, across our touch points. But before all of that, a quick introduction over to you, Ruben. What do you do, and why is it very important for e-commerce teams?
Thank you for having me, finally. So yeah, my name is Ruben. I'm a conversion manager and consultant at Online Dialogue, which is a CRO experimentation agency based in the Netherlands. So I work for a variety of clients, some international ones, which you'll know, Vodafone and eBay, for instance. And besides my work there, I also have my own company, Conversion Ideas, in which I help people learn and excel in conversion rate optimization and experimentation for an affordable price. So for people who don't have the budgets to pay for the business-to-business courses. So every day I work with fun clients, fun websites, and great colleagues on experimentation optimization.
That's awesome. And trust, like as we were speaking about it just before we went live, so important, basic reason why it can literally make or break. Why do you think it's so important? Like, what are the basics around it that make it so crucial for a business?
We can go deep into psychology because, of course, as you said in the introduction, trust is a very strong and already a primal emotion. Going back in days, you had to trust each other upon survival. And now still, we need trust in order to do something. If we don't trust a web shop, we'll not purchase from that web shop. But the interesting thing is, for today, also in your LinkedIn post, the question was, how can I make my web store more trustworthy for shoppers? And I had a conversation with my colleague, a psychologist, yesterday, and we really fast came to the conclusion, like, before asking the question, how can I make my web shop more trustworthy? It starts with being trustworthy in the first place. If you are not trustworthy, it's pretty damn hard to make your web shop trustworthy. So trustworthiness is extremely important already from back in the days when we're still hunting.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, we gotta be trustworthy before we can make our store trustworthy. But what impact have you seen on trustworthiness and conversions within stores, like before and after, big versus small? What are some of those numbers and metrics that you have seen?
Of course, it's when you search on Google, like, how can I make my e-commerce store, my web store more trustworthy? You get a ton of advices and tips and tricks on how to do that. And of course, I've seen them in my experiments as well, adding trust seals, adding social proof, make guarantees stand out more, have bigger product images, product videos, authority. You can find a lot of it on the web. But the funny thing is, you should always test it, because I've also seen instances where I add trust seals or where I add social proof, and it lowers the conversions.
Oh. Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, of course. For some brands, there is already a lot of trust. It's simply because we know the brand or we have shopped there very often. And then just highlighting trust seals or guarantees or state like, hey, you can shop safe with us. That does remind people of that shopping can be unsafe. So it triggers us feeling, hey, even the trust is so high, but then we start doubting it because someone tells us like, hey, it can be unsafe actually. Like if you're kind of nervous or uncertain and someone says, don't panic, you'll probably start panicking. And it can work the same way online. So I've seen a lot of A/B tests where trust seals and guarantees and payment logos or quality logos work very well, but I've also seen them decrease the conversion rates.
That's like something that I've never heard before, and I love that you brought it up. So does it mean that as different size of business or a different industry of a business, how differently do I have to think of trust? Is there any framework around it for me?
Yeah, of course, if you're a rather new brand or people don't know you that much yet, then of course building trust will probably be very, very important for you, because if you don't know someone, how are you going to trust them? Whereas if you're a well-established brand, you might want to focus on other things because the trust is already high. Especially for new brands, for new customers, trust is very important. And that's also the thing. Trust builds, of course, when we are happy with the company and we return more often. If we visit the website more often and we purchase more, like on Amazon, for instance, and every time we get the high quality product delivered on time, and we have a question, customer support answers us straight away. That's how we build trust. And at one point, I don't have to think about buying from Amazon if it's safe or unsafe, if I can trust them. I know that I can trust them. So for me, it's just 2 clicks and I bought a new book, for instance, or another new product. So trust needs time. You need to build it, but of course can also be ruined pretty quickly if you make a mistake.
Yeah. All right. So another question that popped to my mind when you were giving the differences between like a new user, how to think of trust for them versus repeat users. Would you recommend actually like personalizing the way you deploy trust across your store based on your segments and targets of customers?
It could be. I have not seen any very good examples of personalization on this topic yet. But it could be. It's a good hypothesis to test.
Yeah, for sure. To test. That's exactly the keyword for the day. Yeah, and from the home page to collections page to like a product details versus a checkout. How do I, as a business, think of trust differently? Like, what are these different strategies that I can deploy across my store funnel?
Good one. Good question. It's different things that can increase the trust. Of course, it's the usability of your website in general, the design of your website. We know from psychology the halo effect. You can basically, what is beautiful, what is good. What is beautiful is good, for instance. Or when we see an aerodynamic, beautiful looking car, we automatically assume it's fast and of high quality. And the same goes for your website. And there, we lost someone. I'll just continue. There you are again. Now I don't hear you. I think you'll
hear me in a bit. You'll hear me in a bit. I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was telling about the halo effect. When we, what is beautiful is good. It's basically assumption we have. When we see an aerodynamic car, we assume it's fast. In data, we still see that good-looking people still, unfortunately, have a higher salary. So same goes for your website. When you have a good design to start off with, people automatically assume that the rest of your website and your products are also good and trustworthy, therefore. So it starts with a good design. Then, of course, the copy is very important. Show you understand the website visitor, show their needs, their pains. That builds trust. Show you're similar. And then, of course, it's big part is usability, being able to find what you're looking for. No friction on your website, because that again ruins the whole experience. And when the website sucks, then the product probably also sucks.
Yeah.
Now, when you get to the product page, of course, it's clear and big product images. It's detailed product information. And also you'll see often, I maybe just see a lot of USPs working already related to delivery date, guarantees, return policy, etc., etc.
Got it. One question that came to my mind, because recently someone actually asked me about that, right? Is that how crucial how different is trust for your regular checkout flow versus when you are trying to like upsell, for example? Have you seen anything different in that?
Not that necessarily what comes to mind. If you upsell, relevancy is very important. People actually do need to upsell. But in both cases, you have to give your contact information and you have to pay. So I haven't seen any main differences there. Got it.
And is trust, like, let's say I'm a brand and of course I have my own web store, but I also have, I'm also selling, for example, on an Amazon or some marketplace or an eBay, right? How do I think of trust differently? Like, I should have some sort of trust nudges, I'm sure, or even on my marketplace product listing. Is there any framework to think like that?
I think it's mainly very important for brands to understand that people do shop on different places and they compare things. And the web shop that we trust the most has a very much higher chance of actually converting the visitor. Despite the price, even if there's a small price difference, but you trusted one web shop much more than the other, you're probably going to buy from the one you trust. It's called ambiguity aversion, which basically means we like a safe bet. For instance, there was a research done where there were 90 balls in an urn, and 30 of those balls are red, and the other 60 balls are either black or yellow. Any combination equally likely, you just know the combination. So 30 red and 60 black or yellow with any combination possible. And they asked the participants, which are probably students, as all social psychology research, if we draw a red ball, you get $100. If we draw a black ball, you get $100. Which option do you choose? And the majority goes for the red option, simply because we know there are 30 red balls in that urn. And for black, we don't know. There could be one ball, there could be 60 black balls in that urn. So we always choose for a safe bet. But if you compare it to websites, when your competitor has a more trustworthy website than your own website, or if Amazon is more trustworthy than your own website, then people will have a tendency to buy from that shop which they trust, because we like a safe bet. Ambiguity aversion.
I love that example. That's a super good example to think of. Also gives me a framework. Like, trust is also transparency in a way. Sometimes being upfront about things is also a way to build trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Transparency is very important. Just like as also part of transparency is giving company a face. If your contact details, have a chat. If you're a new brand, for instance, have a photo of your team. Make it look real. It will never be as real as in a store when you actually talk to someone, a person in the store that helps you. But you can make it look more real, give it a face, and for such things show that you are trustworthy.
Yeah. And one final question from my side, not final, but I want to definitely dive into the 4 or 5 questions that we have from our audience. There we go. Ria's already posted that. So any top experiments that you remember, because our audience loves to hear about real examples, right? So, in your last year or 2 years of work, is there some example that you want to share with the audience on, this is what it was, this is how we tried to build in trust, and this is the outcome we got?
Yeah, sure. Well, there are lots of them. So to think what comes to mind. Okay, so for one of our clients, of course I cannot say names, but we want to increase the trust on the product detail page. And what we did was actually order something of the product from the web shop, and we took pictures of the box and everything in the box. It makes it look really real, and everyone on the website sees exactly what they get, because they actually get the image of the box they'll get in their mailbox, and that really increased the conversions. So actually being very clear what people will get increases trust. That's why they convert more. Another example is also in sense of being clear. for one of the bigger furniture websites in the Netherlands, we saw in research, because research also, of course, very important. Besides testing, do your research. We saw in research that delivery day is extremely important, and delivery day was stated. Well, first we made it more prominent, so it stands out more, so people see it, and that increased conversions. But delivery day was stated between, let's say, you'll get this product in 5 to 7 days, for instance, or from 3 to 5 days. And when we made that number specific, so we get it in 4 days instead of 3 to 5, or you get it in 6 days instead of 7, or instead of 5 to 8, 6 to 8. That's when the conversion increased again, because you're very clear. It leaves no questions for people straight away, easy to trust.
Got it.
But what we also see for instance, for a well-established brand in the Netherlands, very well-established newspaper, which is more famous for or read by a bit older people, is that even though they read that paper for years and years and years, maybe for 10, 20 years, they are still hesitant to put their banking details on the website. So even though the brand is very trustworthy and they've been a big fan for many, many years, then still, when leaving their bank details on the website, they're still hesitant.
Yeah. Great examples there. And we'll quickly dive into the questions. And then I have one final question, I hope. Yeah. We have a couple on the chat from our live, from the audience who's joined the Zoom. So Vanita is asking, she's actually on her way to become a CRO. Congratulations, Vanita.
Nice. Congratulations.
Ruben, have you experienced that the data without a doubt indicates a decision, but the client still wants to follow her gut feel, right? And how do you face this challenge?
I'm not sure if I fully understand it, but as to with the gut feel of the visitor, as opposed to data and accuracy.
Yeah, I think what she's saying is that you're working with a brand or a team who have a great store or site, and your data is showing something, but the person on the other side is saying no, but I still feel that this will work better. Like, have you seen that, and how do you face that?
And is that person in being a colleague?
It could be the client on the other side. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that happens a lot. A client, okay, yeah. No, that happens a lot, of course. It depends on how mature an organization is when it comes to their mindset and how the way of working regarding experimentation. But especially when they're still quite new to experimentation, and there's not such a data-driven culture, we get quite often that we get an experiment and they just don't agree with the results because it goes against their gut feel, and you get like fantastic arguments like, I've been in this market for 10 years, of course I know much better, it's probably something wrong with the tool. So the best way is to go to have a conversation with them, and don't start a fight, because they also need to trust you. When we speak about trust, if people don't trust you, you're never going to get to an experimentation culture, because you need to be trustworthy and reliable and likable authority within the company. So it's always start a conversation and really deep dive, ask questions to these stakeholders, like what is it that they say this? Why do they say this? What is behind the is that fear? Is it just keep asking questions. And if you have a stakeholder who's very hard to convince about experimentation, then try other stakeholders and get back to him later when you have a bigger fan base, bigger ambassador program in the organization.
Yeah. I hope, Vanita, that answers your question. She's saying it's a smart answer. Lovely. So we have the next question from Chance, and he's saying he's read your article on meta-analysis, and I've been thinking of ways to incorporate it, not just as an internal way of working, but when holding kickoff meetings with clients and justifying test ideas to them. How do you use that framework?
Yeah, good. I like that question. So you usually use this framework within clients, within for certain organizations, because the meta-analysis will look different for every organization. Like we already said, established brands, they probably need to build less trust, or they already have trust compared to the new brands. So the meta-analysis will look completely different. But that said, of course, at Online Dialogue, we have a database with thousands of experiments. And of course, you do see some trends which tend to work for some websites better than for others and for industries. So when we start with a client and want to set up some A/B test very quickly, we can look at a meta-analysis of that industry website. But then still, again, you should build a meta-analysis for a particular organization, a particular brand, because it will always look different. You always have differences in products, differences in audience, and therefore differences in needs.
Which leads us to the next question from Victoria. Actually, she sent it out in advance. Is the effectiveness of trust signals also different across geographies? And it kind of ties into the meta-analysis that you just mentioned too. So have you seen examples of trust varying across not just segments, but actually geos?
Yeah. In some cases there is a difference. Of course, basic psychology still applies, but for instance, I know that people in Germany are much more likely to read the terms and conditions than people in the Netherlands, for instance. So if in the Netherlands we show the terms and conditions very big and probably on the checkout or on the cart, it will probably decrease conversions because it's distracting. Of course, you have to test it. And in Germany, it tends to work because a lot of people search for it and want to read it.
Yeah. I'll add in over in India, a lot of payment related trust signals really work. And in fact, in the early days of e-commerce in Asia, cash on delivery was a big thing across Asia, China, India, Indonesia, other places, because a lot of folks don't have access to online payment methods. So, cash on delivery, and they're afraid that, hey, like if I put in my card details, someone might just, take that stuff away. So cash on delivery, like actually get the product and then I'm going to pay. That became a big thing to actually build trust in the early days of commerce in Asia. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point, because there are differences as well. Some countries are very tech savvy already, whereas others are still quite new. When we look back, like in the Western world for like 15 years or so, you still stuff like fake urgency. There's only two items available, which might not have even be the case. And now there are laws for that. But because we get so used to such seemingly easy persuasion tactics, and when it's fake, we kind of get a so-called bullshit detector for that, and the trust rapidly decreases. Whereas for some companies who are still not that tech savvy yet, it might still work.
Yeah.
But then again, fake urgency will decrease trust eventually, and you want long-term customers, so don't do anything fake. But we'll probably see differences there.
Yeah. Don't do anything fake. That's like the final thing.
Like Paul, we said, like to be if you want to have Trustworthy web shop, be trustworthy yourself. That's where it starts.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Any business, it starts with the team. Like you got to be trustworthy, and then you can build a business that's trustworthy. Paul has asked a question. He has a mid-sized store, and he's asking, what are the different ways I can add social proof to my store? Any tools that you would recommend?
Different ways for social proof. Social proof is simply always make it as real as possible. So if you have like one very general sentence, which is supposed to be a quote, but without a name, without a picture, people will not as much trust it as when you have a good customer testimonial with a picture of the person and first and surname. So make it as real as possible. And it really depends on your store. For business to business, I often see big success stories. Could also be videos, and for big e-commerce websites or general e-commerce websites, it's basically a quick product review, few sentences, and then the quantity really counts. So it's very different, but do make it as real as possible. And tools, Yeah, there are some third-party external review websites, like for instance Trustpilot, and that works very well because that makes it more trustworthy. If you that's a external website which also shows whether the purchase is verified or not, and that shows that's trustworthy. Whereas if you have a new brand, and you only have 5-star reviews, but you place them all on the website yourself and not an external website, that's probably less trustworthy.
Yeah. That's totally noted. One more question from Barry. In the era of disinformation, where our trust in companies and online sources are at an all-time low, what do we need to think about today as a brand to really think about trust?
Yeah, again, be trustworthy yourself. But like I said, if you're a new brand, try to see and always test if you can give the company more of a face. Show contact details, have a responsive chat, but also show images of your team. It could also be that you, depending on the brand, of course, that when you give a presentation on stage, show images or videos on your website, so it shows you're knowledgeable and trustworthy, shows you're an authority. But again, you can find a lot of tips and tricks on many different websites. But the important thing is to test and experiment and see what works for your website and your market.
Yeah. Seth is asking how can user reviews on product details based PDPs actually help build more trust, and how effective is it for better conversions from PDP to checkout?
I've seen massive differences with product detail page with reviews and ratings as compared to no reviews and ratings at all. When you have reviews and ratings, it's social proof, and social proof generally works very well. How it can help, have a lot of positive reviews, but also some negative ones. Because if you have some negative ones, it makes it look more real and therefore more trustworthy.
So that leads to another question that Aman, I think you answered parts of it, which is like, for a new store, how do I think about building trust? And you did mention that for new businesses, it's about putting in more people into the picture, like your customers or your team, etc. But you mentioned something interesting, which is about negative reviews. So how do you balance it out? Like, of course, like as a team, as a new brand in the early stages, you are kind of trying to figure out how to set the rest of your shipping and fulfillment, customer support, all those functions really well. So how do you balance out negative reviews? How do you use it to build more trust?
There's actually two questions in one, kind of. So the first one was again for new brands, how else can you do trust? Have others recommend you. That could very well work. I mean, for a part of the audience that doesn't know me, and hopefully I gave good answers to the questions today, you probably trust me a lot more now that you've seen me here than when you just see one blog of me. So yeah, get on shows, have others recommend you. That also works if you are new to the market. And balancing out negative and positive reviews, in my humble opinion, I think we have a very big ethical responsibility in our work, because we experiment and we try to persuade people, and we learn from people from our experiments, maybe even things they don't even know themselves. So we have a very big ethical responsibility. So in fact, the question, how do we balance out positive and negative reviews? We don't. We show the real reviews. It has to be honest, has to be fair. Again, be trustworthy to make your web store trustworthy.
Super. And on that note, we are right on time. On that note, thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much, Ruben, for walking us through that. I think my takeaway is that the core of it is be trustworthy as a brand, as a business, and as an individual, and the rest is something that you experiment and will follow. So thank you so much for your time. We've got chance. I hope your question was answered. For the rest of the audience on live stream too, Ruben will actually summarize everything that we spoke about into a guest blog, and we will share it out with you. And thank you for today. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for nice questions. And if there are any other questions, always feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to help people. I'm a big passionate about this line of work, so feel free to connect with me there.
Yes, we will share Ruben's details over email again, and you will anyway find him, Ruben de Boer, and you can find him on LinkedIn. All right, thank you. That's a wrap for today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.